going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the post-lunch session at Drupal Camp, otherwise known as the nap session. So I know it's dark and everybody's satisfied, so I hope I keep you excited about search possibilities in Drupal. My name's Julia Koelsch. I am a partner at Spry Digital. We're a local interactive development agency. We build web applications and websites. We use open source frameworks and content management solutions, including Drupal. So we've built a lot of sites in Drupal, and we've built a lot of search in sites in Drupal. So I thought today I could share some things that we've learned over the years about integrating search into Drupal. So I'll start out with the very basics and then kind of build up from there. All right, well, let's talk about search first. Search in Drupal can mean lots of things. You could be very, very specific and want to provide a search for just certain parts of information that you're providing via a view. You might want a site-wide search for content in your nodes. You may want to provide search that includes media for images and videos and audio. You may even want to provide search within documents that you host on your Drupal site. Depending on your needs, you may need a lot of different types of things in Drupal. And because of all of these various needs, there's approximately 8 billion search modules on Drupal.org. It might be a slight exaggeration, but seriously, go out there and look. It is crazy the number of contributed modules there are just about search. So what's interesting about that, though, is that search comes baked into Drupal core. So search is so integral to Drupal that it's actually a core module. Why are there so many additional contributed modules out there for search? Well, it turns out that search can be really, really hard. And let's talk about, not Drupal specifically, but why search can be really hard. First of all, language is imprecise, and it really matters what you're talking about. So think about trying to search for the word apple when you pull up Google. You're going to get more search results than you could possibly ever consume in a lifetime. And those search results can include pages about Apple, the company. It could be about Apple, the fruit. You'll probably get some recipes in there. It might be about Apple, the record label that the Beatles recorded on. There's even a dry cleaner in St. Louis with Apple in their name. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Meaningful information comes in a lot of different formats. So not just pages, but also other types of media, like we were talking about video, audio, images. Those require really different approaches to include in your search results. Then finally, we have really high expectations, thanks mainly to Drupal or to Google. When you search on Google, Google provides auto-completion. It almost appears that it knows what you're searching for before you search for it. It corrects your spelling. It knows really who you are most of the time, and it knows where you're searching from. So it can give you really customized, useful information. That's a lot to ask for out of your average Drupal site. So take all of that into consideration when you start thinking about how to apply a search in your website. So given how complex everything seems, you might be scared away from the core search module. But you shouldn't be. It's a really good, robust module, and it provides a lot of functionality out of the box. And for many sites, it's going to give you what you need. So I thought, why don't we take a look at what the core search step provides? So, pardon me while I switch over.
Do you have your deck somewhere?
I will have my slides available afterwards, yeah. So I have created a little demo site, populated with some content, and I've just enabled the search module. So as you can see, I have a little search form in my sidebar. And if I search for something, I'm going to get search results. That's great. I search for a word and I'm getting content back based on matches that are in the title of my content or the actual body of the content. I could search for another term, and I'm going to get search results back based on taxonomies that are used in that content. So that's what's included in core search. Search covers visible node content, and it also, if I switch over to this other tab, it can also cover users. So it will search for username, matches on usernames, and if you have the right permissions, also their email address. So when I say node content, that includes titles, it includes the body, it includes visible fields. We'll talk about that in a second. And it can also include comments if you want. So that sounds pretty good, but we should also talk about what's not included in the core Drupal search. That includes non-node content. So things in blocks aren't part of core search. User profile fields. So if you've configured first and last name, that's not necessarily part of core search. Taxonomies themselves. You'll get content that are tagged or related to taxonomies, but not if you've actually created robust taxonomies with fields themselves, that's not included. So it's important to know where your limitations are with the core Drupal search. But the search functionality itself is pretty robust. You can do and searches, meaning you're searching on two terms and you want them both to appear. You can do or searches, meaning you want one or the other term to appear in your results. You can do exclusionary searches, meaning I don't want this particular term to show up. It also gives you this little advanced search area, so you can then further customize your search, containing this phrase, containing any of the words, and then you can also filter on your content types. So as you can see, we have 4 different content types. A few things to note. When you add a new piece of content, it's not part of your search index right away. Your content is indexed when cron runs by default. So if you're looking for something that's not in your search result, probably it's because cron needs to run. Don't forget about permissions. You need to make sure the people who need to use the search are able to use the search. And then finally, it comes with a very helpful little search block, and you can put that. You can also add it to your menu. So let's talk about visible content. So I have some content. Let's go look at all of this content, and I have this basic page, and in my basic page we've got the title and we've got the body and an image, and I have another field and it's called hidden text, and I have the words Drupal Camp STL in this particular node. And if we go look at the display options, basic page, you'll notice that I have the hidden text field hidden. So when we go and look at that node, you're not going to see that content. But what that also means is that out of the box, I'm not going to be able to find that content if I search for it. Now, sometimes you hide content because you don't want people to see it, but it may make a difference whether or not you want that content to help pull in search results. So that's important to note. And it matters about what your default view mode is for your search. So what I mean by that is, by default, basic page, manage display, we have our default view mode and our teaser mode. Core search also comes with 2 other view modes. You have your search index and you have your search result highlighting input. And if you turn those on, And we add our hidden text, we make sure our hidden text field is included in our index. We may want to even include it in our search result. And then because we changed our index criteria, we need to run cron again. It should show up. It's not. That's the danger of a live demo. My cron ran really quickly, so. Well, in theory, it should be there. Maybe I didn't spell it right.
Were your changes not saved?
Maybe. That could be it. Those are the dangers of a live demo.
You can look at the search configuration and it should tell you if it's been indexed or not.
You are correct. So let's talk about the settings real fast. Search settings. So that's under configuration and then search and metadata. So yes, you can see the indexing status. 100% of the content's been indexed. You can also re-queue it to re-index your site. So we could do that, although that's odd. And then there's some other things in there that you can turn on or off. So you can indicate your default search mode, and then there's some other items in here that you could, there we go. That's better. Spinning, indexing. Goodness. All right, that's taking, there we go. Ta-da! There's our search result. Okay. So, as you can see, there's actually quite a bit that the core search module can do. But what if we want even more control over our search? Maybe we want more control over what types of things are in the search. Or maybe we want to prevent certain content types from being included in your result. Then when you hit those limitations, it's time to start looking at other modules to help enhance your search. The next one you may want to take a look at is called the advanced search. Let's see. Sorry, custom search. If you turn that on, custom search comes with a few different extra add-ons. There's a custom search block. And there's internationalization if you need that. There's also a search taxonomy. If we go take a look at the settings for custom search, you can see there are a lot of different ways you can further control and enhance your search. You can control labels more easily. You can control what your search submit button looks like. What's really great, though, is if you start looking at content, you can do things like make sure that certain pieces of content are included or not included in your search results. So you may have noticed I have a content type called secret content. And if I go to the site and I look at it, the secret content has pirating type content. So let's find, if we search for Jolly. This is a content node of the secret content type. I would like for this particular content type to not show up in my search results. Now, this is an arbitrary demo example, but this could come into play if you have content types that are for slideshows or rotators or things like that that provides the search, a site experience, but isn't content that you would actually want to show up in search results or not meaningful within a search result. So using advanced or custom search is a great way of being able to control that. So if I exclude secret content, I'm going to save my configuration. I'm going to need to reindex things. And then we'll keep going. There are other things you can do with this. Another really nice thing that we'll see in a minute while this is after this runs is it provides additional search block forms, and each particular you can create any number of them that you want, and you can have different settings available in each block. So it gives you a really fine-grained control of search, and are able to contextualize your search depending on where you are within your site. So you may want a basic search on your home page. You may want something with more control. You may want to be able, for people to be able to filter on certain terms within a particular section of your site. The custom search module allows you to create the type of control that you're looking for. All right, cron has run. We still have the content showing up. There's yellow, jolly, top mask, shiver. But if I search for jolly, nothing shows up. I've excluded that content type from my search. The other configuration settings for custom search are pretty self-explanatory. So if you are interested in learning more about custom search, I encourage you to try out the module. It's easy to download, install, and start using right away. So we've talked about ways of better controlling items in your search, the way your search looks. Filtering is a really important concept in search. It's a way for people to be able to find information that they need when you're presented with a lot of different kinds of information. In search, this particular way of providing that behavior is called facets. So if you think of buying something on Amazon or on Zappos, if you're looking for a pair of shoes, you want to be able to search on your size. You want to be able to search probably by color, by style. All of those criteria are contained in what they call a facet. Drupal, there is a module called Facet Api, which provides that kind of control and allows you to really determine the criteria on which people can filter and provide better search results. Facet API is very flexible, and it works with a variety of different searches. So you can use Facet API with your core Drupal search module, or you can use it with more robust modules like the Search API or Apache Solr, which we'll talk about in a minute. So Facet API comes with your core Facet API module, and then there are additional add-ons. One is to allow it to integrate with Search API, and the other one is for the core search. So we still have core search enabled, so we'll go ahead and select that. So now we have a new tab, and it's called Facets. So Facets list potential ways to filter your search results. So it takes a look at things that out of the box might be important to filter on. For instance, we could create a facet for author. that would probably be very helpful. Also, tags or categories. So we'll go ahead and enable those. We also need to enable the faceted navigation for search from our core search settings. So we'll go ahead and reindex. And what the Facet API provides are, out of the box, there's some blocks. And so you can put these blocks in your sidebar, and it will allow you to add these facets as filtering criteria on your search results page. And we'll see that in a few minutes. And then what that'll allow you to do is you can search for items, easily search for items that are written by a particular author without having to know the author's name and search for them in the core search area. Still running. Let's go look at our blocks. So now we have 3 new blocks. We have search for author, category, and tags. So I'll go ahead and add those to our sidebar. And there. Did I not add them the right way? Well, we'll see them again later when we get into Search API, so you'll be able to see how they work in action. So we've talked about adding additional filter criteria, but what if you've got more robust search needs? You want to be able to include more fine-grained control over how your content's indexed or how deeply you want it to be indexed. Well, the next thing you probably want to look at is another module called Search API. Search API is insanely robust and powerful. It is a core module that a lot of other modules can sit on top of. So it breaks things out into 2 main areas. You need to decide how you want your index to be saved, and then you need to also decide on other things that factor into your search. So we'll talk about that in a minute. When I'm talking about where you want your index to be saved, it's what they refer to it as the server for your search. So a lot of times when you get to Search API, you're going to want to look at something like Solr, for instance. And we'll talk about Solr in a minute, but you can use Search API without having to go to something like Solr, and you can store your index in the website database. This is probably a good idea if your site is relatively small without a fair amount of content, because it will add a load to your database, and it could impact performance if you've got a lot of data and a lot of content that needs to be indexed. But if you're just playing around with Search API, or you've got a fairly small site, then it's certainly something to take a look at. So you've got your Search API, and I have also downloaded the database search module. So that will provide us with the ability to store our index within the website itself. And out of the box, you have an index from Search API, but it's not going to do anything, because you need to tell Search API what server you want to use. So you need to add a server. We're going to just call it database, and then you can choose your service class. So like I said, we're using the database service. If you had the Solr API module, or there's some others for Elasticsearch or things like that, you would see that in the dropdown, and you would configure it appropriately. So if we go back to Search API, now we have a server, which means we can go ahead and modify our index to use this server. So now the indexing portion of Search API knows where to store things. And once we have that, we have and set up and enabled, we have this tab called Fields. What is really exciting about that is you have the ability to control what part, even various aspects of a given field. So by default, Search API is going to say, well, you probably want to include title and content type in your search result. But if you don't, you could certainly turn that off. You can also control how important that information is, which will allow you to have more relevant search results come up to the top of your results. It also scans your content types to look at various fields, so you can, for a given field, control various things about that. Let's see. So by default, it already included the body value. You could also separately include the body summary. So if you've got different content in your summary versus the body, and you want all of that to be able to be indexed, then yes, go ahead and select that. In addition to that, there's this little field at the bottom that allows you to pull in related non-node entities into your results, which is really powerful. So what I mean by that is I've defined a few taxonomies. There's category, so we can go ahead and pull in category, click add fields, and then at the bottom now we've got a lot of different aspects of this category taxonomy that we can include in our search. You include the name, which is important. You can define how you want your search to look at that. So name is probably very likely you want it to be full text, but if you've got content that's not textual but you want to include in your results, then this is where you would configure that. So as you can see, you can go really deep into kind of geeking out on how to better modify your overall index to provide really good search results for your users. So let's go back to our core search settings. Oh, we actually want to turn off core search. We want to enable one more thing. So Search API, we've got this index, we've configured it exactly how we want it, things are being indexed, that's great. How do we actually get that data to appear on our site? Well, it's not going to use the core search. You need to enable something else on your site to provide actual search results on your site. So there's different ways you can do that. Search API can integrate into views via a module. We also have a module installed called Pages. So that's just going to give us a default search page. So we have many dependencies. Oops. And let's finish up disabling things we don't need. So we've disabled search. Oh, but we haven't indexed everything yet. So anyway, you can see you still have the same search form out of the box. Let me go into our index. We need to enable the index. And then you need to make sure that all of your items have been indexed. So we're going to queue things for indexing. And then we're going to index now. So again, Search API out of the box is going to use your use cron unless you kick it off manually. So things have been indexed. And there you go. We have search results. These search results are provided by the Search API. And again, this is default. This is just the page search results. Like I said, you could use views to even more customize the output of what you want included in your search. So let's say you really like Search API, but you've got a lot of content. You've got maybe a lot of media that you want to include in your search results. You know that it's probably going to really bog down your site if you use the database to store your index. Well, then you probably want to start looking at other ways of storing your index. And a good thing to first evaluate is something called Solr. So Solr is an open source search server. It's been around for a really long time. It is written in Java, so it's something that you need to install separately and run separately from your Drupal site. It can run on the same server, like web server, if you want it to, or it can run on a completely different server. You can obviously host it yourself, knowing that you're running something. It's not a PHP app; it's going to be a Java app, and so it really pays to have at least a basic understanding of how to host Java applications. Alternatively, there are a few companies now that offer hosted Apache indexing. You can look online, you can look on Drupal.org to get a list of companies that offer that. And it's a fairly low price, and you will get a Solr server, out of the box ready to go within a matter of minutes. So it's, even if you're not comfortable with hosting a Solr server yourself, you've certainly got options. And what that will enable you to do is do the kind of really deep, broad search and also be able to really control your search results by using something outside of the box. So I'm not going to actually walk through setting up Solr, but I wanted to give you some ideas of the types of search results that you can get using Solr. Spry has helped the Metropolitan Sewer District with a site redesign and redevelopment, and we launched it last year. And one of the unique things about MSD is that they have tons of PDF documents. I mean, thousands and thousands of them. And they have meeting agendas going back to the 1950s. And they're required to host all of these on their site and make them publicly available for people. So what we implemented Solr, and one of the great things is that we can index those PDF documents and actually get those in our search results. So I've pulled up some search results. I just searched on the year 1964, and these are PDF documents where that year was found. So there's a lot that goes into configuring a document in order to be able for it to be indexed, even outside of Solr. So you need to think about things like metadata that's in your document. If you want PDF documents to be indexed, it's pretty easy with PDF editing software to include metadata that you want available to be searched. in. And when you have that metadata and Solr and the Solr module in Drupal is able to find it, you can also further control the indexing to help. For instance, you can see that the year is highlighted, things like that. That's all available through Solr. And it's not just PDFs. You could do this with Word documents or Excel documents, provided that you have the right kind of metadata. The metadata, especially for Solr, is really important because that's what it's going to be able to look at and understand. And of course, Solr indexes the regular site content also, so people are really able to find easily what they're looking for. All right, I'm going to go back to my slides. I'm going to go Solr isn't the only game in town. There's another search server called Elasticsearch, and this has really been gaining traction. It's been around for a while, but I'm seeing it pop up a lot more recently. What's great about Elasticsearch is that it's really powerful. So, meaning that it is robust in terms of being able to scale wide and scale deep. It was built with scalability in mind. Solr is older, and so things like that have been built into it over time, but Elasticsearch was built from the ground up to be really robust. So if you're talking about big data, Elasticsearch is one of the items that you may want to look at. Another great thing about Elasticsearch is that it has a RESTful API and is schemaless. So when you're talking about Solr, if you want to implement Solr with any degree of complexity, you're going to start getting into things called schemas. And so being able to configure the schema for the language of the website that you want to index, or the type of content that's being indexed. Elasticsearch, you don't have to go as deep to start being able to get really robust results out of it. It's also a Java application, so you'd still need a JVM to run Elasticsearch. And I haven't installed it, but I've read several articles saying that it's easier to install, so that is maybe another benefit of Elasticsearch. So when I was talking about Solr, I was focusing mainly on the Search API and the Solr API integration that goes along with that. In D7 right now, there's two comparable modules for Solr. There is Apache Solr Search, and then there is the Search API and the Solr integration with that. Elasticsearch is similar. There seems to be two good modules for that. There's one that integrates with the Search API called Search API Elasticsearch, and then there's another one called Elasticsearch Connector. So I have not evaluated either one, but I think what's nice about the API one is there are dozens of other modules that go along with Search API to help provide additional functionality. So if I were going to look at Elasticsearch, I would certainly look at those two with an eye towards the Search API. So finally, let's talk about the future of search in Drupal 8. So obviously, core search isn't going away. We really need search on all kinds of sites, even basic sites where you're not too concerned about going deep into the type of indexing you need. So remember how I was talking about there's two competing modules for Solr search? Well, they've joined forces and they've decided that Search API is the way to go for Drupal 8. So they've all of the development has gone into working on the Search API to make it for Drupal 8 even more robust, even more easier to use, and even more flexible. So it sounds like it's going to be a really good experience, even more so than in Drupal 7. So keep that in mind when you're evaluating modules to use when you're looking at your search. I've included some resources. Again, I'll share my slides afterwards, but there's a few articles out there that help evaluate search solutions, and then some other kind of walkthroughs and tutorials that I found that are helpful. And with that, that's all I had to talk about as far as search, and I wanted to have a few minutes for any questions. All right, I covered it all, huh? All right, well, thank you very much.